Greetings to all my tech heads out there in the KevTechify nation, and if you're new here, welcome. In this episode, we're going to look at collision and broadcast domains. We'll be discussing collision domains, broadcast domains, and how to alleviate network congestion. This episode is part of my series on switching, routing, and wireless essentials. I'm Kevin here at KevTechify. Let's get this adventure started. As we talk about our switches and setting up our network, we need to talk about a collision domain. What a collision domain is a part of a network where collisions can happen. Now, if you eliminate collisions, you eliminate those collision domains, it's going to reduce congestion. Data is going to get through your network faster, it's going to be quicker, you're going to have less errors. Now, if you have full duplex, that eliminates collision domains. A lot of times, in a network, you have a PC and a switch. If you have full duplex, what happens is data can be sent and received at the same time. They have their own lanes. You can think of this as a highway or a road. You each have a lane traveling in each direction, and if traffic happens normally, cars get through there really quick. There is no congestion. But if you have a one-lane road, say you come to where there's a bridge, and it only has one lane going across, and two cars come, one car has to wait while the first car crosses. Once the first car crosses, then the second car can go across the bridge. The communication that those cars can travel in both directions, just not at the same time. And so half duplex, you can cause collisions. Because think about that. If you have that single lane bridge, both those cars go at the same time, they're going to have a collision. But if you're on a normal road with two lanes and traffic happens normally, those cars aren't going to have a collision and data gets through there a lot faster. When we have a collision domain, there's contention for bandwidth. And that's that going back to that single lane bridge where one car has to wait for another. Auto negotiation is one way that we try to eliminate collision domains. Auto negotiation tries to get full duplex and the fastest speed possible. It will negotiate those connections. It will try to negotiate full first and then down to half duplex, and then it'll try to give you the fastest speed possible. Now, a collision domain is where a collision can happen. If you look at your networks, typically between a end device, a PC, and the port is a one collision domain. If you have another device hooked up to port 2 here, and let's say we have another device here, PC2, that is a second collision domain. That collision domain includes that end device and that port it's in. It doesn't include any other ports on the switch. That switch has a MAC address table. That switch tries for full duplex, eliminating all of those additional points where a collision could happen. If you like this episode on collision and broadcast domains, and you get value out of it, and depending upon the platform you're using, please click that like button, leave a 5-star rating, leave a comment. Doing this supports the channel, which in turn helps me bring you more great content. Subscribe to my channel and click that notification bell. You can also visit my website at KevTechify.com for all of my details and how to get these episodes in video and podcast form. A broadcast domain is where the broadcast all can travel on your network from one device. The broadcast domain extends to all layer 1 and 2 devices. That broadcast happens typically on any device up to a layer 3 device, up to a router. End devices, switches, they all take the broadcast, they propagate the broadcast through the network. As soon as it comes to a layer 3 device, to a router, that router stops broadcast. Here we have an example. We have one switch, we have several PCs, couple servers connected into it in this graphic here, and all of these devices are on a single broadcast domain. Down here in this bottom graphic, we have two switches. Those two switches are interconnected. Each of those switches have a number of PCs and servers connecting them. but there is no layer 3 device. And so a broadcast that starts on one of these PCs, on one of these switches, all the rest of the devices on that switch and on the other switch will hear that broadcast happen. And so a broadcast domain is as big as your local area network up until that router. The collision domain is where collisions can happen, and it's typically between the end device and that one port on the switch. No other ports, no other devices, just that one port and the switch. That's the collision domain. Broadcast domain is all the devices on your local area network up until that router, up until your default gateway. Layer 2 switches typically use MAC address tables and full duplex to eliminate collisions and avoid congestion. Now, there's a couple features on a switch that they use to help alleviate network congestion. First one is fast port speeds. Depending upon the model, switches may have up to 100 gigabit port speeds. Now, that 100 gigabits per port, that's really expensive switches typically used in data centers. But if you're a big enough company and you have big enough servers and you require it, you can get up to 100 gigs per port. To the desktop in today's world, we typically see gigabit to the desktop. We're now starting to see 10 gig to the desktops, starting coming out for bigger applications. But we use these fast port speeds to help alleviate congestion. The second thing is that switches use is fast internal switching. They have those ASIC circuits that are built specifically for forwarding frames. They use a fast internal bus and shared memory to improve their performance. They have large frame buffers. This allows for temporary storage while processing large quantity of frames. And then finally, they have a high port density. This provides many ports for devices to be connected to the LAN with less cost. It also provides for more local traffic with less congestion. It was my pleasure to provide you with this wonderful episode on collision and broadcast domains. If you liked this episode, if you got value out of it, and of course, depending upon what platform you're using, please click that like button, give a 5-star rating, leave a comment. This all helps me bring you more great content. Please take a minute to subscribe to my channel. All of my socials and contact information are on my website, KevTechify.com. You can get all these episodes in video and podcast form. In the upper right is my playlist for my series on switching, routing, and wireless essentials. In the bottom right is one of my favorite videos that I linked just for you. Thank you so much for watching this episode on my series on switching, routing, and wireless networks. Once again, I'm Kevin. This is KevTechify. I'll see you next time for another great adventure.